It's just after midnight on March 1st, 2008, in the small East Texas town of Alba, population barely 1,000. Inside a modest cabin-style home, a family is asleep. Terry Caffey, a youth pastor, his wife Penny, their two young sons, Matthew and Tyler, and their 16-year-old daughter, Erin, the golden girl of their tight-knit Baptist congregation, a choir singer, a homecoming princess, the kind of teenager parents point to as an example. Within the hour, 3 of them will be dead. The house will be burning to the ground, and the 4th survivor will crawl through the dark, bleeding from 5 gunshot wounds, convinced his own daughter helped plan his family's murder. This is the story of the Caffey family murders and the question that still haunts everyone who studies it. How does a well-loved teenage girl from a loving home end up orchestrating the slaughter of her own family over a boyfriend her parents didn't approve of? Terry worked as a youth pastor at Miracle Faith Baptist Church, and the whole family was deeply embedded in that World Bible study, choir practice, Sunday services 3 times a week. From the outside, the Caffeys looked like the model Christian family. Erin herself was well-liked at school, popular, pretty, seemingly well-adjusted. There was no documented history of abuse or neglect in the home, just an ordinary, devout, close family until Erin met Charlie Wilkinson. Charlie Wilkinson was older 18, then 19 by the time of the murders. And by most descriptions, not the kind of young man conservative Christian parents want dating their 16-year-old daughter. Terry and Penny disapproved of the relationship almost from the start. They saw warning signs. They tried to end it. But Erin didn't want it to end. And according to investigators, when her parents forbade her from seeing Charlie, the relationship didn't cool off. It intensified, moving into secrecy, defiance, and eventually something far darker. Reporting on the case describes how the idea of eliminating the obstacle her family didn't originate as a joke or a passing threat. Investigators say Erin and Charlie discussed the murder plan for roughly a month before it happened. When Wilkinson reportedly first suggested she simply run away from home instead of confronting her parents, Erin refused. She wanted her family gone, not just out of her life temporarily, but permanently. Charlie recruited help. His friend, 20-year-old Charles Bubba Wade, agreed to take part in the killings directly. Wade's girlfriend, 18-year-old Bobby Johnson, agreed to help too. Not as a shooter, but as a getaway driver, someone to make sure everyone could disappear afterwards. 4 teenagers and young adults, in other words, spent weeks quietly plotting to wipe out a family of 5 over a relationship that could have simply ended, or that Erin could have waited out. She'd have been an adult herself in a couple of years. That gap between the size of the problem and the scale of the response is part of what has kept true crime audiences, psychologists, and podcasters coming back to this case for over 15 years. On the night of February 29th into March 1st, 2008, the plan was set into motion. Erin and Bobby Johnson reportedly waited in a car down the road from the Caffey home, while Charlie Wilkinson and Charles Wade approached the house itself. What happened inside was brutal, even by the standards of true crime cases that make national news. Wilkinson and Wade were armed with a .22 caliber rifle and swords. Penny Caffey, Erin's mother, was shot and nearly decapitated in her bed. Matthew, 13, was stabbed repeatedly. 8-year-old Tyler was also killed in the attack. Terry Caffey, the father, was shot 5 times, but survived. He would later say he recognized his daughter's boyfriend as one of the people shooting him and his wife. After the killings, Wilkinson and Wade set the house on fire, apparently in an attempt to destroy evidence and disguise the murders as an accident or a break-in gone wrong. Terry Caffey, despite his wounds, managed to escape the burning house and get help. By the time police arrived and began piecing together what had happened, one detail immediately stood out. Erin Caffey, the family's teenage daughter, was missing. Investigators didn't need long to identify a prime suspect: Erin's ex, or, depending on the account, still current boyfriend, Charlie Wilkinson. In a town the size of Alba, where everyone knows everyone, it also didn't take long to round up Wade and Johnson. Erin herself was found with Wilkinson at the trailer where he was staying. When police located her, she initially claimed she had been kidnapped, swept up against her will in whatever had happened to her family. She appeared to be in shock. For a brief window, some investigators and family members held out hope that she really was a victim in all this, not a perpetrator. That hope collapsed quickly. As Erin was being driven to the hospital to see her surviving father, accompanied by her grandparents and sheriff's deputies, a call came in. Erin was now considered a suspect, not a victim. She was handcuffed in the car. According to reporting on the case, she broke down crying and insisted to her grandparents that she'd had nothing to do with what happened to her family. Wilkinson, once in custody, began talking, and what he told investigators confirmed that Erin hadn't just known about the plan. According to authorities, she was the one who wanted her parents dead in the first place, specifically because they wouldn't let her be with him. Within about 24 hours of the fire being reported, all 4 people involved, Aaron, Charlie, Wade, and Johnson, were in custody, and each of them was talking to police. What made the case especially disturbing to prosecutors wasn't just the violence. East Texas has seen violent crimes before. It was the profile of the people involved, but for how young, ordinary, and seemingly unremarkable the 4 defendants were, set against how ruthless and senseless their crime had been. Investigators noted that neither Wilkinson nor Wade appeared to be under the influence of drugs that night, though alcohol had reportedly been involved. All 4 defendants ultimately pleaded guilty rather than face trial. Charlie Wilkinson received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Charles Wade also received life without parole. Bobby Johnson, who acted as the getaway driver and didn't use a weapon herself, was sentenced to 40 years with eligibility for parole after 20. Aaron Caffey had tried as a minor rather than facing the death penalty. Prosecutors chose not to pursue against her, accepted a plea deal for 2 consecutive life sentences with the possibility of parole when she turns 59. At the time of her sentencing, Aaron's own defense attorney said simply that he believed it was a just outcome and that everyone involved seemed satisfied with it.